Hello mga kaBEEPS, this is Gary.
Hi mga kaBEEPS, this is Francis.
Hi mga kaBEEPS, this is Lucas.
Hello mga kaBEEPS, this is Apple.
Hi mga kaBEEPS, this is Zelina.
And
welcome
to
BPO
Oh my God. Never yun na perfect to, nakakaloka.
Ayun, pwede na kayo. Meron ba tayong kailangan ulitin?
Ay, isa pa.
And
welcome
to
Night.
Kaloka kayo ko.
Welcome to BPO Night Live. I am Gary again. Hello mga kaBEEPS. And we are here to ask you one question. One question talaga eh, no? Do you still remember your first interview? Or regardless of the many times you've been interviewed, what have you experienced? What's your recollection? And what was it like? Diba? Kasi we know for a fact we've got some kaBEEPS out there who most likely have transferred from one company to the next and have had multiple interviews, or perhaps you just want to join the industry. This is your first time. I think you want to know what we expect, how you should present yourself, and what are the common things that normally people have problems with when they're being interviewed. So to help us with those, we have here, well, of course, we have the normal panel of, your hosts here. We've got Apple, we've got Francis, but we've got
I doubt if we're normal though.
Very, very normal.
Far from normal.
Far from normal.
Abnormal.
But of course, but we're going to have another person here to sit in as our host. Host talaga. As our guest.
No
Hopefully
pressure.
maging mainstay, pero tingnan natin. So, I'd like you guys to meet Zelina. Hi, Z!
Hi,
Hi everybody.
Hi, Zai! I miss you so much.
Miss you so much.
I remember I just walk up going to your house. I just message you and I'll just be there. I'll just turn up by your house.
And then we just eat.
Oo nga, di ba? And then we'll talk about what dogs, no? How or our best friend in the office. They owe me that shit.
Hi. We should have that sheet
Yeah.
today.
We should. Oh my gosh, I have so much to say, but we'll save that for later.
Okay. So Z, please introduce yourself.
Wow. Okay, I wasn't ready for that. Hi everyone.
Well,
I haven't introduced myself in a really long time. I'm Z. I don't know how to introduce myself anymore. So I used to be a radio DJ, and I'm still a voice talent now. So if y'all looking for somebody to do voiceovers, y'all can hire me. What's up? Yeah. And I started out as an agent. So I took calls for about a year and a half, and then after that I stopped so I could go back to school. And after graduating, I decided to go back to the BPO industry as a trainer. So I've been in training, or I've been a trainer for over 6 years now. And oh my gosh, I've trained on pretty much every level at this point. So from applicants to trainees to agents to their team leaders, the supervisors, the managers, the directors, almost everybody. And yes, I have interviewed, I'm not even sure how many people anymore at this point, but a lot. Let's just say a lot. So I do have a lot of stories in my head, pero Gary may have to jog my memory for a few of them.
Don't
So,
worry,
yeah.
we'll help you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
but I remember
So
he would just
bloopers,
step
grabe.
into the office and she would have a lot of stories to tell about the interviews that she had for the day. There was this one time, I remember the rice cooker. Tell me how you cook rice. That's one that I really remember because the employee once said, we have to take the rice cooker out of the hiding place. Out of, it sounds so awkward kasi it
Hiding
sounds so
place.
contrived. It sounds so contrived. So at least mga kabeeps, I hope this episode will help you, understand, or at least perhaps how is it that you can compose your sentences better. I think that's one, and then we can also most likely help you to let your personality show during the interview, because that's you, and that's aside from your comm skills, that's also one thing that's going to get you hired, right? Okay, so should we start?
Oh my gosh.
Okay. So by the way, Francis and we also did some kind of recruitment back in the days. I think that was 2017.
Oh,
So we also did that. One of the things that I always get, or I always get asked by applicants, is that, is the work difficult, or is it like 100% you really have to speak in English? Unfortunately, yes.
Well, yeah, that's the job.
Yes, unfortunately, yes. Parang, are you thinking that you can just break in the middle of conversation? No, that's a big no-no. And what if, let's say, I have good comm skills? Is it enough? The answer is no, it's not enough. Thing is that aside from understanding the language, you also need to understand the product, what you're selling, the service that you're providing, or else it just wouldn't make any sense. Again, it will sound contrived, but it all boils down to, that very first day that you get interviewed. So you get like multiple rounds of interviews, right? You have your voice assessment, and then you have your operational assessment, etc., etc., etc. So now, no, for Francis and I, we handled both. Zelina, you handled more on the comm side, right? The communication side. But you've got most likely with a touch of sort of like an attempt check on their behavior, I think, based on the kind of questions that you throw at them, right? So okay. So those are my experiences. What are your experiences when you interview employees, or applicants?
Ooh. So for one of the things that I've noticed is when I ask the question, or like when I say, tell me about yourself, even if I explicitly say, do not mention anything that is in your resume, because usually when you say, okay, tell me about yourself, there are two things that happen. They either recite every single thing that's in their resume. Sometimes people even start off by, so like they say their full name, and then they give you their age and their address, and it's like, wait, no, honey, I have that information on the paper that you gave me. I want to know more about you. And when I say, okay, so tell me about yourself, but please don't say anything that is already in the resume because I can read that. They tell me like their deepest, darkest life stories. Na parang, Tapos ako naman, obviously, I
They're comfortable saying that, their life stories. I think that's okay. That gives you personality. Diba?
Yeah,
but sometimes it gets awkward, no?
It's
Yeah,
oh my
exactly.
gosh, like, yeah, it's just, so I appreciate that that a lot of them are open, which is great. At the same time, there are certain things that you don't tell your interviewer. Like, there are certain stories that would be more appropriate to share with your friends lang, not necessarily the person interviewing you. So sometimes I'm sitting there, I'm looking at them, and like all of these things are running through my head, and like, so I don't know how to respond to that because that, okay. And then I have to think, okay, Z, okay, empathize, show that you're listening. So I have to remind myself that, okay, this person is sharing the story to you that most likely means that I don't know. Maybe there's like a need that they have that is not being met, so maybe they just need to be heard. At the same time, I'm also looking at my watch because okay, there are like 8 other people waiting to be interviewed. I can't listen to this person's entire biography.
Yes, that's PMI, no?
Yeah, they tend
And
to do
it's
that.
also hard to sometimes it's hard to empathize with what they're explaining because all of the scandalous stories during interviews.
Scandalous?
Just make me go.
You should share
Oh,
that.
we like that. We
Like
like
about
that.
relationships and stuff. And it's like, wait, no, that's not what I meant.
I agree. It's like people would be. I don't know if comfortable is the word, but oddly enough, some people default to say, "Oh, I just got out of a bad relationship," and then they'll proceed to share details of that bad relationship. Just insert what bad means for you. But it's so uncomfortable sometimes because you know you're an interviewer, not a shrink.
Yeah, it's like an episode from MMK. Maalaala mo kaya? For those people who know that, but yeah, it's just really. Hi. It's just really awkward sometimes, and especially if it's like done on face to face, right? On a face to face interview. Oh my gosh! Like, don't smile or react a little. I don't know what to do with myself. Like, I don't know how to present myself there. Sometimes it's just really uncomfortable.
I wonder why people default into saying that, like saying a lot of details about their romantic relationships during an interview. Or is it because, or their personal relationships, or what they're going through personally because of a failed marriage or whatnot? I wonder I think that makes them feel that it makes them interesting, or that makes them stand out. I'm not sure if that's their intention, but I agree that there are certain pieces of information that you have to give when it's an interview. It should be appropriate. Anything like you don't say to your interviewer that you like BDSM, right?
Wow!
Oh my gosh, I have a story about that.
Oh my god! In an interview?
I'm so sorry.
BDSM. Hi Hardy, hi Lucas.
Hello.
Good morning, good evening, whatever time zone you're in. Time zone,
Whatever shift you're doing.
But like, I guess I'd have to say I'm not really surprised na a lot of Filipinos would default to talking about their life stories. So parang okay, I mean it makes sense. But we're not a game show.
Yeah. But hi
very valid
guys.
point, Zino. That's very valid. Hi Hardy.
Hi. Well, I have to agree with Zelina because since she mentioned about some applicants are used to watch the reality shows. Some of the people from the reality shows are telling their life story just to just to make an impact or make paawa effect. Sorry for the word, right? So I think that's the reason why some of the applicants are used to telling their drama story during the application process,
Because it makes it impactful, and it makes them, I don't know, worth remembering, I guess. And I think they have this notion that if they say something like that, that will really leave a mark on the interviewer, and I don't know, maybe that's what they're thinking, but it's
So
not.
many marks on the intervers. So many marks.
But I think sharing your life
But in a
experience
negative
does not
way.
have any mark or anywhere. Or maybe somewhere in the behavioral part of the interview, but that's just really odd.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do. Yeah, I have a few of those like super traumatic or tragic kind of stories or past that I'm not a counselor or something like that. And Francis and I used to sit together back in Alabang in Manila, and when I had the chance to shadow then conduct my own language assessment piece of the recruitment process. And it's more of phone over the, and I'm surprised over the phone they're actually more comfortable sharing that. Like, oh, I'm supposed to just have like a 10-minute kind of interview, right? But oh my gosh, it's just gonna take so long, right, Francis? I mean, it's just,
Oh, the things
oh
that
my
we've
god.
heard, the things that we've heard
Only
over the
if
phone.
only the Cisco phones can talk. Oh
Oh,
my
but we
god.
record it in our. I mean, it's not just marked in our heads; it's scarred in our brain.
Yeah, I think we will kind of unlock that today.
It's going to scar you for life when you hear their stories, no? And
Yeah.
now that we're talking about that, just like what Apple said, that sometimes applicants would have this tendency to talk minutes and minutes about themselves. But remember that you're only really given like a few minutes to present yourself to your interviewer because you guys are in a queue. You guys are in a queue of people, and the interviewers would have to, process you like in a number of hours just in a day.
Mm-mm.
And it's very important that in those few minutes you create that impact. So number one is that yes, sharing information about yourself is very important because that will leave, hopefully a positive mark with the interviewer. But you don't need to necessarily give all the information if it's not relevant to the job, to the role, the interviewer. If it's not something that has been asked, then you might as well not give the information. So just be very, very mindful with the information that you're giving away. Number two is when you are in an interview, be respectful. Again, do not go on for minutes and minutes and minutes because your interviewers are also trying to process other people and of course on your end. I think that they're just trying your very best to ace an interview, but actually no, it doesn't. It's not, because when you are in an actual phone call with the customer, the same thing applies. You need to be direct, you need to be fast because that will run up your AHT. If your interviewer could not find any kind of useful information about you or couldn't put together any decent information about you in that span of time, then that only goes to show that you're most likely you're gonna run up your AHT when you are in operation. So please be mindful about that. Did I make sense? Can I get an amen up here?
Amen. And most of all, Gary, coming from me, do not be late and always be on time on your interview. Sa akin talaga nanggaling yung don't be late,
I think applicants would just think that it's like your Miss Universe kind of finals or semi-finals questions. Like imagine there's a bell or a ring at the end of 2 minutes or something like that. You shouldn't really go overboard with your story.
Okay. By the way, okay, speaking of Miss Universe, I remember so well when I had, that Gary and Francis, because I've had like several interviews before when we were in our, old company. So I always had this feedback that the way you answer is so pageantry, because during that time I'm really so into pageant, and every time I answer questions it's really like Pia words back kind of stuff. And then when I had that, I think that's you, Gary, who said that to me, the very last interview that I had before I got the position. Stay away from pageantry because your answer is too to Miss Universe kind of stuff. And that's the time that I'm probably gonna be myself for my next interview, and I aced it naman. So yun, I think it helps.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
There's nothing wrong about
your personality.
question. There's no problem about answering a question, I think, in pageant format. But you just have to be very, very careful in how you say it, diba? I think that's it. You don't want it to sound very pageant. But if you look at it this way, how you introduce yourself, a lot of beauty pageant contestants nowadays, they actually have good ways of how they represent, diba? On how they represent themselves, diba? Or how they present
Correct.
themselves. Diba? It's true. I remember, diba si Luciera, the runaway coach. Diba? I saw this video in Instagram, and it's about how you would present yourself. Siguro we'll try to put that video here somewhere, the link, I don't know.
Every year, girls make a mistake and think we want the best girl on the runway. Miss Universe does not model, she speaks. So can she speak clear so that the auditorium will listen to her? Do her eyes light up? Does she smile when she talks? Is her posture good or is her posture bad? And her eyes are looking down, and when she talks, she's like this.
She needs to talk with her body and with her words, everything.
She's a diplomat, and her job is to pull in the audience when she's speaking to little girls. Hello, ladies. I am your Miss Universe, and I want you to be the best you can be. Hello, ladies. I'm Miss Universe, and I want you to be the best you can be.
No, that's a difference. Totally different.
Actually, what she said makes sense, or how she presented herself makes sense. So I think that's one way that our kaBEEPS can present themselves. In terms of Q&A, yun lang. Being able to present yourself or answers in a pageant-like manner, hindi naman siya hard, sorry ha, yung kanina naging impression ko. Pero you just have to control. Practice, control pa din sometimes. You just be very mindful in how you say things, how you phrase things. Kasi syempre, it's still business eh. We want to hear, the turnaround times, the processes, problem thinking, root cause analysis, etc. Blah, 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 blah.
Correct. And I think,
Nice.
the key element, if someone will, have their interview is being authentic, the authenticity of your answer. Because the more that you sugarcoat your answer, the more it sounded so fake. And it's very cringy for the interviewer, you know that, guys, because you're always
Yes.
conducting interviews. So I think being authentic in every answers and answering by, experience will always be the best answer to give to your interviewers.
Yes, it's a
Agree.
really good tip. I mean, don't underestimate your interviewers. They can smell the
Correct.
BS from a mile away. We know. We can spot BS from a mile away, so you know it.
They have a
Smells like
question.
fresh brewed
I'll go.
BS.
Sorry. Is it really is it a mandatory thing to an interviewer to look what they call this? Because every time, especially with Francis, what I always remember with my interview with you, you always look intimidating. I don't know if that's really part of your checklist that you should look like,
I'm gonna tell you a
so that
secret.
this
Francis, should I
The time
spill
I
your
look like a
secret?
schlemiel. I know about intimidating.
Z could look a bit
Even more nervous
intimidating
than the interviewing.
sometimes.
Do
Like
I?
Z
Do I
could
come
look
across as intimidating?
sometimes.
yeah, because it add up, like, being nervous every time you have your interview with someone look so intimidating. I'm not sure if, or I think that's the only characteristics of an interviewer that I have from the past. It's always like they look intimidating, but as the interview comes a long way, they actually sounded friendly now. Or if you give them an answer that interests them, that's where the conversation will go lighter.
I think
Actually, I'm not the only one who has that impression. Z has the same impression.
I mean,
Come on, Z. Everybody says that. Like, at first, you're like all business and intimidating, and then after like training and stuff, they just love you to bits.
Aw.
I can't help but look fabulous.
Maybe
I know, right?
I think it's natural for interviewers to have their game face on. I guess.
Okay.
Well, for one thing, yeah, because it's like, okay, one of the things that I have to do, so one of the things that I have trouble with is I have a very expressive face. So when someone says something that makes me want to laugh or kind of makes me want to cringe, especially if I know it's an interview, I have to make sure that I keep a straight face. Otherwise, I'm going to end up laughing or cringing or something. So for the most part,
okay.
I just look at them like this. But usually it's to stop myself from laughing or
Again. Oh my god.
yeah, just
Oh, that's your
I
straight
think you
face.
can
Oh
blame
my
us for having
god.
RBS.
Yeah, exactly. What is RBS? Resting bitch face.
Bee face.
and
Sorry,
honestly, it's
beep that
nothing
beep.
personal.
Yes, it's
It's
nothing
nothing personal. But sometimes kasi there are things that the applicants say that I'm trying to process in my head. Like maybe I was confused by their statement. Tapos parang in my head it's like, what? How does that connect to my question? So yeah, so sometimes I'm still trying to process what the person is saying, or if not, so interviewers have evaluation forms, especially if it's for communications, and I have to count the number of times that someone mispronounced something, or the number of grammatical errors, or just like the different, for lack of a better term, red flags during the interview. So typically, while I'm listening, I'm also processing how many PFVB issues there are, how many times this person like the person would say, my mother is the most important person in my life, and he is, so like the discrepancies when it comes to grammar. And I have to not only like process all of that, I also have to write all of that down. And it's going to look really weird if I go and then like I'm smiling and I'm writing it down. It's like, so the best way for me to keep a straight face is to just go okay, continue, go on. And I don't really realize that I look mean.
So to everyone who got interviewed by Z, she is not mean at all. We know that she is.
Depends on who's
She is
asking, but
and she's a great trainer and a
Yeah.
great friend.
Aw.
But for the most part, when an interviewer looks serious or looks mean, it's usually because they're processing what you're saying, and it's because we have to fill out evaluation forms.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah.
Next time on BPO Night Live.
So we're not doing this to make fun of anyone, okay?
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer. So this is not to make fun of anyone. And then I'm trying to listen, and in my head it's like, did I miss something? Is he? So I'm listening to him, I'm looking at him, and like I'm trying to write this down, and I'm processing everything in my head.
Usually I'll ask, okay, so what are your hobbies? So some people would say, oh, I like playing with myself.
No.
Follow us for more BPO talks and tips on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at BPO Night Live. You can watch us on our official Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. BPO Night Live is also heard as a podcast on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast listening apps.